Hello, good morning, and welcome to the exciting time where we talk about business. It is Business 360, and my name is Blyden Ukem. In Business 360 this morning, we'll look at some of the key features around the world of business and the markets. First on Business 360, SMMEs record 115% surge in cyber attacks. We begin from there. Small and medium scale enterprises have recorded a 115% increase in cyber attacks from fake productivity tools and artificial intelligence platform. This was disclosed by a global cybersecurity and antivirus company, Kaspersky, on Thursday, indicating that these attacks took place in the first 4 months of 2025. The new report indicated that in 2025, nearly 8,500 users from small and medium-sized businesses globally faced cyber attacks where malicious or unwanted software was disguised as popular online productivity tools. A multiple report indicates that based on the unique malicious and unwanted files observed, the most common layers included Zoom and Microsoft Office, with newer AI-based services like ChatGPT and DeepSeek being increasingly exploited by attackers. Still in business, looking at Thailand as a whole US tariff talks. Thailand Finance Minister Picha Chuhavajira said he will travel to the US next week for trade talks, with a negotiation date already scheduled, though he did not provide details. Bangkok is racing to secure a tariff reduction before a moratorium expires in July. Otherwise, its export could face a steep 36% US tariff. Currently, a 10% tariff applies to most nations under the temporary pause. Earlier this month, a Thailand Commerce Minister, Picha Naripatham, expressed optimism that the two sides could reach favorable terms, potentially locking in a 10% rate. The country also hopes the negotiations will be extended beyond the July deadline to avoid economic disruption, as exports are key drivers of its economy. Still on the foreign scene, a U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said President Trump is preparing to finalize a series of trade deals over the next 2 weeks ahead of a July 9 deadline, when higher tariff pause in April could be reinstated. He didn't name which countries would be included, though Trump earlier hinted that a deal with India was close. If no agreements are reached, Trump plans to send letters to nations outlining U.S. trade terms. According to Litnick, countries will be placed into a proper buckets on July 9th, but the president may also extend deadlines to allow further negotiations. Still regarding the US, the US and China have reached a framework agreement to resume rare earth shipments to the US following trade talks that began last month in Geneva, according to the White House. A US official said the framework aims to expedite rare earth shipments, while US Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick noted China will deliver the materials and in return will take down the countermeasures. This announcement came shortly after President Trump said that a trade deal had been signed with Beijing, though details were sparse. It remains unclear whether the framework will prevent Trump's proposed tariff up to 125% from being reinstated on August 12th. In Africa, there's a survey regarding Ghanaians that 73% of Ghanaians thinking that foreign prices could drop but local ones stay. A recent survey by Maverick Research has revealed a growing divide among Ghanaian consumers regarding price expectations, despite the notable appreciation of the Ghana cedi in 2025. The recent appreciation of the Ghana cedi has sparked debates among Ghanaians about its impact on goods pricing. A survey revealed that 73% of participants expect reduction in foreign goods prices. Brand loyalty has been affected, with many consumers switching products but willing to revert if rates improve. Ethiopia has formally opened its banking sector to international investors for the first time, marking the most significant change to its financial system in decades. The National Bank of Ethiopia established Directive SBB 94/2025 to regulate foreign participation in the banking industry. The decision is part of the plan to liberalize and modernize Ethiopia's financial institutions. Foreign financial institutions and financial investors can now apply for banking licenses with immediate effect, which opens the door to cooperation with local institutions or direct market entrants. Industry experts deduce that the banking sector's deregulation may attract international firms such as Standard Chartered, EcoBank, and Gulf banks, who may decide to participate through joint ventures or totally owned subsidiaries. Still in Africa. Africa continues to grapple with some of the world's most severe electricity access challenges, with Nigeria and the Democratic Republic of Congo topping the global rankings for the largest population without power. A new data from the World Bank report titled Tracking SDG 7, the Energy Progress Report 2025 shows that a majority of the countries with the highest electricity deficit are in sub-Saharan Africa, further emphasizing the continent's persistent infrastructure gap and the urgent need for investment in energy access and grid expansion. Despite efforts to improve electrification, millions remain in the dark, hindering economic growth, education, and health outcomes. To achieve universal electricity access by 2030, substantial investment in accelerated electrification measures are required. According to the report, nearly 92% of the world's population now has basic access to electricity, a notable improvement since 2022, when the number of people without power declined for the first time in a decade. However, more than 666 million people still lack access, underscoring the current progress is insufficient to meet the goal of universal electrification by 2030. This challenge is especially pronounced in Africa, where millions of people continue to live without electricity, highlighting persistent regional disparity in energy access. Still in Africa, as Africa oil producing clubs could soon welcome a new member. In 2025 alone, two African nations, Sierra Leone and Rwanda, seem to have positioned themselves as potential entrants into the continent's oil producing club, signaling a shift in their long term economic strategies. Sierra Leone and Rwanda are positioning themselves as new entrants into Africa's oil producing nations. Sierra Leone completed a major offshore 3D seismic survey to explore its oil potentials and assess feasibility for licensing blocks. Estimates suggest Sierra Leone's offshore region could contain up to 30 billion barrels of recoverable oil equivalent. Nigeria and Egypt and Morocco have been listed as the highest recipients of the $95 billion remittance into the African continent in 2024. This was revealed in the State of Africa's Infrastructure Report 2025 published by the Africa Finance Corporation. The report indicated that diaspora remittances have proved to be more stable than foreign direct investment and official development assistance. While remittances are primarily directed towards household consumption and social obligation, they reveal the presence of trusted financial channels that could be leveraged for more structured investment, particularly through instruments such as diaspora bonds. Several African countries have experimented with diaspora bonds with mixed results. Ethiopia issued a bond in 2011 for the Grand Renaissance Dam. Kenya, Egypt, and Nigeria have also issued foreign bonds. The Continental Bank posited a way to unlock the full investment potential of remittance-linked capital. While Flutterwave, Africa's leading payment technology company, has been named among the Time 100 most influential companies list of 2025. This marks the second time the company has received this prestigious global honor. Flutterwave joins global leaders such as Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, Netflix, OpenAI, Universal Music Group, and others in the list. The list of titans category. A Time revealed the fifth annual Time 100 most influential companies list, highlighting companies making an extraordinary impact worldwide today. To assemble the list, Time solicited nominations across sectors and pooled its global network of contributors and correspondents as well as the outside experts. The Time editors evaluated each on key factors, including impact, innovation, ambition, and success. The result is a diverse group of 105 businesses helping chart an essential path forward. Founded in 2016, Flutterwave was first included on the Time 100 list in 2021. This followed a historic campaign that helped thousands of businesses impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic to sell online. Its 2025 return testifies to the company's ongoing influence as a fintech leader transforming payment across Africa and beyond. And now we'll go on a quick break, and when we're back, Business 360 continues, looking at some important analyses around Nigeria and global economic standings around the world. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. It's still Business 360, and my name is Vlad Okem. As you're looking at perspective within Nigeria's exports to African countries crashed by 631.5 billion naira. Stakeholders are banking on the continued growth of non-oil trade to drive Nigeria's export to African countries, despite earnings crashing by 631.52 billion naira to 1.85 trillion naira since the last peak of 2.49 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2024. Nigeria's export to African countries has dropped in two consecutive quarters. It dropped by 9.19% to 1.85 trillion naira from 2.04 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024. The country previously recorded a steeper decline of 17.86% to 2.04 trillion naira in the fourth quarter of 2024 from the last peak of 2.49 trillion naira in the third quarter of 2024. Foreign trade data from the National Bureau of Statistics showed that in the first quarter of 2025, the value of Nigeria's export to African countries stood at 1.85 trillion naira, representing 9% of the total exports. A total export to the quarter under review stood at 20.59 trillion naira. Stakeholders observed that the country's performance was due to the drop in oil exports. They explained that production and global pricing factors impacting Nigeria's oil earnings may contribute to declining figures, but noted that non-oil trade will reprieve the country's intra-African trade. Still in Nigeria, the African Export-Import Bank has revealed that Nigeria loses an estimated annually to medical tourism, a trend it described as a significant drain on the country's foreign exchange and a major impediment to the development of its healthcare sector. This disclosure was made by the bank's Export Development Managing Director, Mrs. Oluranti Dohati, during the 32nd Afrexim Bank annual meeting held in Abuja on Thursday. She said the continued reliance on foreign medical care was not only stalling investment in local health infrastructure, but also affecting the broader economy. Member countries are losing a lot of foreign exchange to medical tourism, she said. The entire continent is about $7 billion just expenses abroad represents missed opportunities to invest in critical sectors at home. She also highlighted the ongoing loss of skilled healthcare workers to foreign countries working in places such as India, Asia, the Middle East, America, are further compounding the challenges facing. And now the tax reform bills in Nigeria. The Federal Inland Revenue Service has now become the Nigeria Revenue Service following President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's assent to four tax reform bills. On Thursday, as signed into law, the four tax reform bills, which include the Nigeria Tax Bill, the Nigeria Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. Tinubu stated that his assent to the bill would help deliver the first major pro-people tax cuts and relief for low-income earners, small businesses, families striving to make ends meet. He added that the tax reform bills would usher in a new economic era for the Nigerian economy. The implementation of the tax reform bill is expected to commence on January 1st, 2026. Still in Nigeria, the Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission (NUPRC) officially wrote to holders of around 40 petroleum prospecting licensing in Nigeria, informing them of license expiration and giving conditions for extension. This was contained in a letter recently sent to affected petroleum prospecting licensing holders. In the letter signed by NUPRC, the Chief Executive Officer Benga Komolafe demanded that the holder who wishes to apply for an extension must pay $5,000 as an application fee. According to the letter, the PPL was approved June 28, 2022 and expired Thursday, 27 June 2025, in line with the terms of award of the license. Other demands by NU payers for the PPL extension include evidence of submission of a work performance guarantee for initial a 3-year exploration period issued by a commercial bank duty license and by the Central Bank of Nigeria with a minimum credit rating of BBB issued by at least two rating agencies, one of which must be a rating agency incorporated in Nigeria and registered with the Securities and Exchange Commission. And now we'll go on another quick break, and when we're back, a Business 360 continues looking at global economic standings around the world and the markets. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. Still Business 360. And my name is Vlad Okem. And now let's look at global economic standings around the world and the market. First, from China, as industrial profits fall slightly in January to May. Profits at China's industrial firms dropped by 1.1% year on year in the first 5 months of 2025, reversing a 1.4% gain in January to April. The decline highlights ongoing deflation risks and growing trade uncertainties amid steep US tariffs. In May alone, industrial profit shrank by 9.1%, marking the first fall in 3 months. And now to the markets as oil set for worst week in over 2 years. WTI crude oil futures rose for a third straight session towards $66 per barrel today, but remain on track for its worst week since March 2023, following a ceasefire between Israel and Iran. Meanwhile, rising fuel demand amid the US summer driving season is supporting prices, with crude inventories hitting an 11-year seasonal low. A multiple observation indicates a subdued dollar also helped cushion losses by making the dollar denominated commodity less expensive. Quickly, let's go to the markets, the energy market first, and afterwards the metals. Let's look at the price level in the markets. Energy market, our price level shows crude oil at $65 per barrel, gaining 0.585 points. Brent, which represents Nigeria's price benchmark, at $68.2 per barrel, upward by 0.505 points. Quickly, let's look at the metals. The metal market. The price of gold is on the negative, falling by 39 points this morning at $3,288 per ounce. And silver price also dropping this morning. Copper price falling, the steel price gaining 13 points at 2,962 Chinese yuan per ton. And to agricultural market. Agricultural commodities indicates the price of soybeans at 1,024 US dollars per bushel. Soybeans upward by 1.74 point this morning. Wheat price at 527 US dollars per bushel, gaining 6.46 point this morning. Lumber gaining 1.5. Palm oil price no significant change for palm oil in the morning market at 4,012 Malaysian ringgit per ton. The price of palm oil. And now let's look at the top 10 African countries with the weakest currencies in June 2025. Many currencies, including the Egyptian pound and the Nigerian naira, have seen sharp declines in value in the previous year as a result of policy blunders, inflationary pressures, and a strong reliance on imports. But for some of these countries, early indications of currency recovery are beginning to show up, whether as a result of stronger exports, stricter monetary policy, or outside funding. Even small gains in weak currencies might yield significant benefits and lessen the strain on faltering economies if this trend keeps up. Weak currencies significantly increase the cost of imported goods, of fuel, medication, food, and industrial machineries, exacerbating the cost of living issue for ordinary individuals. A stronger local currency contributes to the reversal of its tendencies. For example, if a Nigerian naira or Ethiopian birr begins to appreciate, the cost of basics may eventually stabilize or perhaps fall. This would bring immediate help to millions of consumers facing exorbitant prices. For some African countries, the unpleasant reality of currency devaluation remains a challenge even as the year passes its midpoint. This list is courtesy of Forbes currency calculator. Sao Tome and Principe ranks number one on the list. And now let's look at the top 10 African countries with the weakest currencies in June 2025. Well, at number one, Sao Tome and Principe, well, the current value against the US dollar is at 22,281. The Sao Tome and Principe, it's the Sao Tome and Principe Dobra is the name of the currency. And number two, Sierra Leone Lone, with a price level at 20,969 Lone to the US dollar, quite expensive. And on and on and on and on. Nigeria at number nine. Well, let's go to the market as we set to close. First, we'll look at the US dollar against African currencies, and afterwards, the US dollar against the naira and the cryptocurrency market. The US dollar against African currencies, a US dollar against the naira. 1,545 naira equaling 1 US dollar, the dollar gaining 2.2 points over the naira, and the US dollar against the South African rand, 17 points is the rand to the dollar gaining 0.06 points over the naira. The Kwasha, Zambian Kwasha, falling, gaining rather, gaining over the dollar, 23 Kwasha to the dollar. Quickly, we close with the cryptocurrency market. Crypto market indicates the price of Bitcoin at 106,945 US dollar. Bitcoin falling by 43 points. Ether gaining 33 points this morning. Binance upward by 3.6 points. Cardano, Solana, Ripples, all somewhat gaining, but Ripple are falling this morning. Well, the volatility level in this market not quite high. It's a story of the market and the direction that comes with it. Today is Friday, the last trading day of the week, and here we draw the curtain on today's edition of Business at 360. Thank you for being a part of it. My name is Blyden Kim, and thank you for watching.
Spectrum TV, broadening your horizon.